prepositional or adverbial phrases to try to jump around the little habitual loop that I'm in. But I think this speaks to increasing intelligence, and we all will suffer from some form of dementia, and neuropathy occurs. There is a really wonderful, safe, and legal mushroom to use that leads to neurogenesis, and that's called lion's mane. And lion's mane is a cascading white icicle, edible and choice mushroom. They sell it in the stores.
What stores?
Well, grocery stores.
Really?
All over, yeah. Lion's mane, they're called, they have various brand names. One that I love is called Pom Pom Blanc. It looks like pom-poms from cheerleaders. And lion's mane contains a unique group of compounds
beautiful.
Called erinacines and hericinones. And these regenerate myelin on the axons of nerves. And so this is a mushroom. Kawagishi discovered this in 1994, a Japanese researcher, and he postulated it as a potential preventative or treatment for Alzheimer's, muscular dystrophy, etc. But
do you take it?
I take it every day.
Every day?
Every day.
You take it in raw form? Or
I take it in capsules.
So you buy it?
Yeah, we have an extensive product line.
You do?
Yes.
Well, how do you get to that?
Hostdefense.com.
Hostdefense.com. Why host defense?
That's part of your innate immunity response, supporting your immunity. But our main business is at fungi.com, and I registered that name myself. I'm kind of proud of that. It cost me $25, 1994.
Wow, you were ahead of the ball.
Yeah. So
winterize yourself.
But lion's mane is a safe mushroom to consume. There are several clinical studies out on it treating mild cognitive dysfunction. But there's two mouse studies that I think are quite illustrative. And this is translational medicine. This translates from mice experiments to humans. We already know that it has aspects of neurogenesis. When you go into a state of Alzheimer's, which is a big complex, but one of the characteristics is the formation of amyloid plaques. Demyelination of the neurons, myelin transmits the neural signals. Demyelination occurs. Your outer sheath on the neurons is interrupted by amyloid plaques that then prevent neurotransmission. So the experiments with the mice, which I think are so interesting, one experiment was the maze experiment, where the mice were put into an arena and they went out a corridor. And they went one way in the corridor, they would find food. The other way is no food. Well, very quickly, the mice learned, you go out the corridor, go to the left, you find food. They injected it then with a toxic polypeptide that induces amyloid plaque formation that is a neurotoxin. Very quickly, after 2 weeks or so, the mice developed neuropathy. They got confused. They couldn't remember which way to go. It randomized. Upon giving these mice, again, mushrooms for a few weeks, they nearly re-normalized. Upon sacrificing the mice in the first part of the experiment, they saw the amyloid plaques and the demyelination. The second part of the experiment, of course, another subset of mice, they found that the myelin regrew and the amyloid plaque had resolved.
This is post-mortem. You say sacrifice.
Well, yeah, it's 100 mice.
Euphemism for killing them. And
you're basically
cutting their brains open.
You're cutting off a representative sample.
Right.
You sacrifice them. You determine, that's representative of the population. Now, the remaining population that's alive, they fed them the mushrooms, and they found that they regained neurological function.
Wow.
The other experiment, which I find is even more fun, is, and this was done in Japan, they put like 100 mice in an arena, and they put a toy in the middle of the cage. And all the mice got excited. They came up and sniffed it and smelled it, and they got really excited. And they sat there with counters to measure the number of points of contact. How many points of contact do the mice have exploring a new toy? So they got a really good baseline, hundreds of data points. And then they did the same thing. Then they introduced this cyclopeptide, this neurotoxin, and the mice then, after a while, were uninterested, didn't have imagination, no curiosity. They put in a new toy, they were disinterested. They did the same thing. Now, even their full-blown dementia-like symptoms gave them lion's mane mushrooms. And after a few weeks, when they put in a new toy, they came back to near normal levels. Upon sacrificing the mice, they found that the amyloid plaque had resolved and myelin had regenerated and neurogenesis had occurred. This is a smart mushroom. Now, the tragedy that we face, I believe, as a society, is we have people like yourself, people like me. we're all going to suffer through neuropathy. We have a lifetime of a body intellect of knowledge that we're going to start losing. So what is the loss to society of our elders forgetting, not remembering? So I think this is something that's really extraordinarily exciting. It's not patentable. The drug companies have no interest in this, but this is probably the number one thing that people can do, in my mind, to not only preserve cognitive function, but to expand it. Now, I personally would love to see it legal to stack them both together, stacking psilocybin with lion's mane. And I think that stacking thing, and then combining it with vitamin D3. Now, I suggest vitamin D3, niacin, because those of you who've had a niacin flush, 200 milligrams of niacin or more, you get red, you get itchy, and neuropathy typically is presented at the fingertips, at the end of your toes and your fingers, and your peripheral nervous system. As you have neuropathy, the nerve endings begin to die backwards. So my idea here is, because there are different receptors being activated by psilocybin than with the erinacines from lion's mane, if you stack lion's mane with psilocybin mushrooms with niacin, the advantage is, and this is hypothetical, but this is something I think is well worth testing, is that niacin can help drive the neurogenic benefits of psilocybin and erinacines to the end of the peripheral nervous system. So we actually are planning right now a clinical study in Oregon with lion's mane mushrooms. The physicians who've looked at the research, which is robust, are convinced that it's worthy, and they have their own funding. So we're going to do an N of 30 study is what we hope to do, 30 patients, and we hope to begin that study in the next year.
It would be phenomenal to see how that would affect people with CTE, people like football players, boxers, people with
across
brain
the
damage.
board.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Yeah.
The benefits, and this is something that when you're depressed, you're not creative. And your immune system is depressed as well. You're psychologically, emotionally depressed, and you're not as creative. When you are happy, you are creative, and your immune system is better. So this could be fundamental to disease mitigation across the board. So there are so many different examples like this where mushrooms need to be advanced to the front stage of consideration by serious scientists, and give up your mycophobia, or even your what I call silophobia, the irrational fear of psilocybin mushrooms, and look upon these with new eyes, and drop your prejudices and just look at as a serious scientific analysis.
Wow. How is this received, like in the general scientific community? Is there skepticism?